Click the bell icon to get latest videos from Ekeeda.
Hello friends, today we will discuss about object identity and reference type in SQL. We will know that how an object can be referred by another object and the queries in SQL, how to access a referred object, update it, insert the values of a referred object, what is self-referential integrity, and to go on accessing the referential object on SQL. First, we will know that in SQL, we can refer or identify an object with the help of another object. That means if an object has been created, we can create an object based on the created object. Let us look at this example. Now let us see that what we have done. We have created a department type object with the name as a varchar 20 as in a normal attribute name. Now we have head, which is referring to the data type person, which is a structured type having the name and their address, and scope as the people. So the scope goes for which table this department data type is valid, or the object is referring to which relation, that is the scope or lifetime of that data type. Now the object department is being scoped on people label name, which is referencing the person object. So the people is a relation name, person is an object or data type name. So we can refer to an data type object, but scope will be on a relation, that for on which table we can use this department. Now there are some attributes which we are considering as self-referencing attribute. Self-referencing attribute means that attribute will reference to itself. The attribute will give us the unique identification to itself. So how to declare this one? So now before going to the self-referencing attribute, we can see that with option scope make us that other than declaring and then creating a table, we can directly create a table from an relation or an object with option scope. That means the table will hold only with options on scope people. That means the restriction of the use of these departments will be from the people table only. Now how to add the self-referential integrity? When we are referencing to an object, we can refer to it that a particular attribute being the self-integrity or the referencing to that attribute. So when the reinforcing of the foreign key constraints into this one, then it will consider that the person ID will be the attribute in this person data type object, so that we can refer to the person via the person ID. So we can add the keyword ref is as the reference is person ID to go to person, as we are creating people table from the person data type object. See, the system generated makes that the person ID will be system generated. We have not added any field like person ID to the person data type object. It will be system generated like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like in one. Now, how to create the reference to the actual value? To create the reference to the actual value, we need to first create the reference with a null value and then refer to the actual value explicitly. So to create the reference to the null value, we just insert into values with the referred field as a null value. See, the CS is the name in the department table and null is the referred variable head here, which is referring to the person data type object. Now we will explicitly refer to the value of that head. Now see, using the update department and the table name, we are setting head equals to, we are selecting person ID from people table, that when name equals to John. We know that people is made of the person data type object which has got name and address. So if the name is John, then I'm referring to the person ID of John. Say John is the first one, so the person ID will be 1. And now CS will refer to 1 as the head. So my now value will be CS, 1 if we made a select statement on it. So the when name equals to CS is the outer part is made on the department table. When name equals to John is the inner query that is deal with the people table. So in that we need to define that which is on the inner query and which is on the outer query, based on which the joining and the reference will be there. If it is the reference table, then we need to put it inside the inner query, and if it's the referee table, then we can make any condition in the outer query. Now, other than that, we have used system generated person ID. We could have used an user generated person ID, but for in that case, our person data type object need to have another attribute by user defined type, that is a person ID, which could be an integer of 1 or 2 variables. So how can we do that? Using an user generated data type object. Now let us look at this one. I have created the type person now with the same name and address varchar, but now I'm using the ref using keyword to actually specify that I will use and data type object attribute name to refer to this person data type object, and that will be of data type varchar 20. So now if I can use the person ID as user generated, so it will directly go to this varchar 20 data type and use this person ID as a reference using keyword. So now when we'll create table that people on the person, we will do this like. So now I am using the references keyword to the person ID as an user generated. So no, we do not want to put the null value as a reference one anymore. We can directly put the values that the user generated value to the person ID when we will insert the values into people. So that will look like, this is of the people table that we are inserted 01234 for John and referring to as the address Coyote Road. So now the 01234 will be used by the varchar 20, which it is reference using. So we need to put it first, then the name and the address of the particular people. Now when we want to refer it to our table, we can directly use 01234 other than using null value as a reference one. Now in this way, we can use a person ID that is present in people table obviously can be used as a referring to the person department object on the department table. Now we could also use the primary key as a reference to a particular data object. So we need to include the primary key in the ref by keyword. See here you can look that create type person, the data type object person, as the name I have mentioned is as the primary key, and if I am mentioning some attribute as the primary key, I can use the keyword ref from on the primary key to refer to that actual data type object person. Now how will you use inside the departments table? Now we can see that we are creating the people on the person data type object. Referring is the person ID which is derived now. So derived means it will be derived from the primary key name which is the reference from on the person data type object. Now we can directly put the name and it will go for the self-referential attribute. So when we want to insert in the department table, we can just put John as the name on that referring key, which will refer to the actual attribute data from the people table. Now I am using the name. Now the name will be referred to the person data type object, the people which is made of this person data type object. Now in SQL 1999, we have that a path expansion or a path name for selecting a particular value on that data type which is used for referencing or identifying an object. We can use it with an arrow sign. To identify an attribute head of the particular department table, we use department's arrow head for our explanation. So if I want to select something from the department table, we should write, now here head arrow name goes for the primary key name and the head arrow address goes for the address of that name which is being the primary key to the attribute. See the name and address and the head which is being the person data type, we can use it directly on the departments which is based on the people which is referring to the person data type. So first a relation need to refer to an object and then the object can be made out of another object. Now how the path expansion will be used in this way? For our definition, we have used first the head. The head was in department, so it will first go in the department table. From the department table, it will go on the people table because department is made of people type relation. Now the people is referring on the person data type object. Now the person is constituting with the name as the primary key, so now it will go to name. Now as we know, head is being the referring part and naming the department wise on this attribute, we can directly have fetched name from the department, and for the address we could have used this path expansion to head, now the department, then to the people table, referencing to an object type person and the attribute that is associated with an object type person. Now if I want to dereference to some department or to a relation from a relation, we will use the keyword deref here. Now when we are dereferring, we are actually pointing a tuple for a reference, not a relation. So here we are dereferencing head and the name attribute on the head. That means the department will now have no relation with the person's name because it has been dereferenced from the head, that is referring name from department to the person. So from department we are selecting dereferencing head.name. That means all the name that were present in person but not in department will be now shown because the object now being not identified by the another object type which is known as person. So that is all for just object identification and the reference types in SQL. Thank you for watching this video. Stay tuned with Ekeeda and subscribe to Ekeeda.